You know, when I read your guys' comments, I just laugh my ass off. Some of you are so funny. Anyway, I'm going to try this, okay? If it doesn't work, I'll just erase it. You'll never know. This is the new caribou. Honorable Sir David, Emperor of Salt Lake City, the Bard. It reminds me, did you ever see that movie with Cleopatra where they announced the king coming in on his horses and whatever, and they called him the ruler of this, the judge of that, the general of this? I kind of like it, you know, because you people play into my grandiose. You know, grandiose is a symptom of bipolar. So when somebody says you're the new caribou, Honorable Sir David, the Emperor of Salt Lake City, the Bard, I go, hell, that must be an important guy. Where is he? Who is it? I need to get his autograph. And you know, Jay Leno has waited too long for me. He's waited way too long. It's Letterman or nothing. You know, I was watching that Late Show. Have you guys ever seen this? Of course, in Australia, Saudi Arabia, whatever, you don't see these things. But there's this late night guy that has a skeleton on his show, and the skeleton talks, and he's funny as hell. He really is. But anyway, let me get to my subject matter here. I have a quasi friend, Jonathan, and he was over here the other day with his sweet Filipino wife, and the two girls, they get together and just chatter their own native tongue and really enjoy it. And Jonathan is a Mormon, and he's fairly well educated as a Mormon. He's been adopted. He's been in 2 or 3 different families. He's been in an FLDS family, so he knows what that's like. And he's been abused, so he knows what that's like. And he went on a mission, and he knows what that's like. So this is a guy that's got some knowledge and some experience in the real world. He and I talked a lot, 5 or 6 hours. Here's what I've decided that I need to put out. I'm old. God, I'm really old. I'm almost 65. And that's old. When I was in my 20s, I thought 50 was really old. It's funny how your perspective kind of changes on that. And Jonathan knows a lot of LDS history, real history. Now, that surprises me a little bit, because most people who know the real history of the LDS Church head for the hills. They're not interested. I don't know, is that light better? You know, nothing makes me look better, but I don't know, that's a little more homey, I guess. It's like Homie the Clown. Or, that's my homie. I don't know. There is what I call now the New Age Mormons. The people that are my age, we remember a very different Mormon church. Now, this is the church that doesn't change, the God that doesn't change, and the church that will not let you change your pants, and a church that makes you crap your pants all the time. There's a New Age Mormons, and I realize I'm not one of them. This younger generation coming up really believe the things that the Mormon church tells them. Now, we old people, I remember when there were cry rooms. If any of you out there are that old, hey, join the club. I remember the cry rooms that were up over the sanctuary, or the place where you sit for sacrament meeting, and you went up there with the kids, and the teenagers went up there to talk, and it was fun. I remember the 2.5-minute talk, where somebody would get up and speak in Sunday school for 2.5 minutes. I remember the sacrament gym, where they would go, please, they'd say the sacrament gym, and then they go, please repeat, and then the whole audience would chant the sacrament gym. And I remember when blacks were not in the church, and they couldn't hold the priesthood if they were Donald Trump and paid the church. Well, I don't know. Joseph Smith had a black maid, and she wanted to get into heaven, and so Joseph promised her that she would go in heaven, but only as a servant. The bastard. The bastard. I have a friend in California, Danny. He's an attorney, and he and I have been on the phone. Not lately, but he would always say, the bastards. So I picked that up. Another bad habit. These New Age Mormons don't have the same church we had. My father literally took a whip to us for family home evening. We had to be there. It was boring as hell, and none of us kids wanted to be there, but it was his duty as a priesthood holder to beat us to family home evening. And of course that made us tired, and so we went to bed early, and then when he went, that would give him time to go in and sexually molest my sister for 2 years with no one in the family knowing. We were all so tired and sick of family home evening. You know, it was his Monday night special, and it wasn't the football game. The bastard. So I remember road shows. They were fun. You know, we would dress up and you know, we would have a script that was written by someone in the church, and someone get the phone please, I'm recording. And we had fun. There were dances in the road show, and everyone got a chance to act, and the audience came, and your parents were cheering for you, and it was family. I remember the gold and green balls. Now, that's not a sexual term. We didn't think that way. You people are a different generation. The gold and green balls, that was a dance. And the colors of the church were gold and green. It's like a football team. It was gold and green. I remember we never heard about gay people. We seldom heard about blacks. If a black came into a Mormon meeting, there would be astonishment and many people fainting on the benches. I remember the hippie generation. They weren't allowed in our chapels. The marijuana was the terrible thing of the earth at that moment. And free love, in Mormon church, nothing's free. You pay, and you pay, and you pray, and you pray. So free love wasn't there either. I remember very, very well, we mowed the lawns to the chapels. My dad and I, we had this lawnmower, and of course, you guys, you're too damn young. We had what was called pot metal. Now, it wasn't toilets that were made out of pot. Pot metal is a metal that cannot be welded. If you break pot metal, it's broken. You just throw it in the trash. Well, we had this all broken down because we were not very wealthy family at all. I mean, we gave our money to the Mormon church, a fast offering and, oh God, a home storage, hell. And we had a hand wheat grinder. We hated it. The children hated the wheat grinder, but we'd have to grind our own food in the morning, and my dad would be so proud that we were Mormons. We were sick of being Mormons. But anyway, God, see, I've lost my train of thought just before the wheat grinder there. But, oh, the lawnmower. So we used to mow the lawn over there on Saturday, and it was a big lawn. This was in Riverside, California. And we would take gas cans and oil cans with us. I mean, we'd go through 2 or 3 tanks of gas. And sometimes the church didn't mow their lawns like they do today, and it was high. Sometimes the grass was high, and we had this old broken down, stupid-ass lawnmower. It could barely, you know, cut your hair, let alone cut a half an acre of grass. And I'm out there just, you know, pushing and pushing and sweating like a pig, no shade, and my dad yelling, "It's for Jesus, it's for Jesus." And I go, "God, I haven't seen Jesus here." How do we know it's for Jesus? And don't ask those questions. Just bow your head and push. I go, "Ah, shit." So I did. And about 2 or 3 hours into mowing the lawn, I heard this huge explosion, and I saw this piece of metal launch from the launch pad of the lawnmower into space, and the lawnmower quit making noises. It just sat there, and it was smoking. And that was against the rules at the Mormon church. Lawnmowers weren't even allowed to smoke. So I went over to it and I said, "Dad, you know, I think there's something wrong with the mower. There's a big hole here in the side." And he comes over and, "Well, it's a test from Jesus." I said, "What? I'm going to push the lawnmower and spin the blade with my hand. What test are we talking about? Well, it blew the piston, and the damn piston just came right out of the engine, flew into the air over the top of the chapel. We couldn't find the piston anyway, but we did pray for it, and we did dedicate a grave for it. My dad, the Mormon. So anyway, there were many things. We had dance festivals, and they were bitchin'. They were fun, man, especially because we slept in the gymnasium of the chapels with the girls. I always raised my hand for the dance festival. They said, who wants to be in the dance festival? And the New Caribou, the Honorable Sir David, Emperor of Salt Lake City, the Bard, even though the kids never called me that, they called me Asshat. I wanted to go. And we had a blast. We did. We went from different wards, and we practiced our dance and did the cha-cha and ballroom dancing and swing, which was basically these days not rock dancing. It's more like break dancing and what is my daughter calls it? Jeez, I can't even remember. But anyway, we had fun. And then when the parade came to town, we built a float. That was bitchin', man. We go out there with toilet paper and spray cans, and we get a theme, and all of us kids would, get on the float. We'd put our prettiest girls on the float. We tried to, in our ward, we tried to let the virgins ride on the float, but one was sick, and the other was out of town, so we couldn't get virgins, and we just took what we could get. And we'd always win first place with the parade. And our leaders, God, they took us, we were down in Central California, in my ward, Ojai, California, and they would take us to Oakland. We went up and saw the Oakland Temple when it first opened up, and I think we did baptisms for the dead up there. It's in a ghetto now, but it wasn't then. And our leaders would take us up in cars, and we'd put signs on the side of the car, let's make out at the temple, to the girls beside us, and the parents driving, they never saw that. And we had parties, the young kids, we go over to the young men's Ronnie Priesthood house, the guy that owned, who was the president of Ronnie Priesthood, that's the bishop, but anyway, we go over there and we dance, and they would be, the two couples would be there in the house and chaperone us, the parents, and we had fun and dance and punch, and man, it went on and on and on. And you didn't have to be in the Scouts in those days. You could actually be a human being. You didn't have to sleep in tents where the men will come over and grab your weenie. That never happened when I was in the Scouts. And we built a chapel. In those days, the Mormon Church was not a corporation, and we had a big meeting. I remember my dad had a little boat, a little 20-foot boat or something, that we used to put out there on the Lake Casitas. And I was only 16, and he'd let me take the boat. I'd hook it behind the car and take it over there and impress the girls. I decided to take the boat once to the ocean. That didn't impress the girls at all. When the big wave came in, filled the boat, shoved it up on the shore, and the engine is like this. And I have to explain this to my dad. So anyway, we went water skiing. We did all kinds of, especially basketball, which the churches still have basketball, of course, the Mormons. And we used to do baseball or softball. And I remember, see, I don't belong in society. I really belong in front of the camera, because the camera has never come off of there and hit me in the head, slap me silly. Humans do. I was on the softball team, and our team was playing Ojai was playing Ventura, and I hated the son of the state president. He was a total ass, and more than me. Well, in my opinion, in the ward's opinion, he walked on water, and I forget. I don't know if I was playing second base or something, and he was trying to steal from first base to second, and the pitcher threw me the ball, and I tagged his ass out. Well, the state president was the umpire. Jeez. If I had known in those days, I would have been kicking dirt on the umpire, but I didn't know. And I was shocked that he said his son was safe. The kid wasn't safe. And so I slapped the shit out of the Suns. They threw my ass out of the game. I was sitting on the sideline. They didn't want that kind of behavior from a good... They didn't have excommunication for behavior unbecoming a soldier. And I was a little soldier. And they go, just sit on the bench. You know, we don't want you in here. And so in those days, I had some fun in the Mormon church. I really did. My friend Al, he left the church. He was a returned missionary from the Philippines, and my bishop was the mission president, Jackson, Bill Jackson. William Jackson was one of the first mission presidents in the Philippines. He was my bishop. And, you know, in those days, we played jokes on the bishop, and he was a good egg. He bought a Jaguar, a red convertible Jaguar, and in our town, you know, it's pretty good. We had a lot of Mercedes and a lot of limos, but a cool Jaguar was cool. And he was a doctor, and he was over at the hospital, and me and a couple of asshole kids who were my friends, you know, it's like the Three Stooges, assholes, Mormons. We found a dead cat on the road, and in those days, it didn't occur to me to try to resurrect it. I was a kid. So we walked down to the hospital, and we put the dead cat on the seat, the leather seat of his new Jaguar. And then we sat outside to watch him come off from work, his shift, and open the door to his car. You wouldn't think he was a bishop, the way he was talking and dancing, and there was no mercy to the cat. It was already dead. There's no reason to take the tail and wave it and flip that sucker into space. But, you know, bishops, they can be human too. And some of them are subhuman. But this guy, Bill was okay. And he put up with a lot of shit. I remember we would have lunch at the high school, which was not too far from the chapel. And we knew how to break into the chapel. In those days, no one gave a shit if you went into the chapel. And we'd go in the chapel into the kitchen, and we'd get some food that was left over, because we always had potluck dinners and banquets, and we had daughter-daddy dances. That was bitching. You'd take your little girl over to the recreation hall, and they'd have a little music or a band, and you'd dance with your daughter. And we just took the food out of the damn fridge and went up to the sacrament table, put our feet up on it, and gorged ourselves. No one thought too much about that when they caught us. The church was different. You know, we didn't hate homosexuals. We didn't even know what a homosexual was when I was growing up. And the girls, they all wore dresses. And the boys, we'd kneel down on the outside of the chapel and pray for high winds. It was the good life. These Mormons now that are my age, it's hard for us to look at the history and the filth and the squalor of the Mormon church and believed we were caught in it, and we were embarrassed, and we are humiliated that we were taken advantage of that way. And this New Age Mormon group, those kids that are 35 and under right now, they've never seen this shit. They don't miss a dance festival. They don't miss scouts that go to Mexico. They don't miss all of the money that was in the ward activities and the fun things that we did. We built the chapel. I got to get back to my dad's boat here. They had a meeting, and in those days, the members of the ward had to prove their faithfulness by donating money. And my dad, when they asked our family, how much are you going to donate, he said, we're going to sell our boat. Well, that kind of pissed me off. I liked the boat, and I had fun in it. I still enjoy boats and water skiing. Not that you can get orca out of the water on skis, but I like driving the boat, and my kids are on tubes and skis and whatever. So we sold our boat to pay for the Ojai ward. And then when they dropped off the bricks and the mortar, we went in and we lifted the bricks to the masons. We didn't have to give them any signs, tokens, or symbols or handshakes. The masons just laid the bricks. Then we painted. We painted the halls and we painted the chapel. And we were heavily involved in the Mormon church and its activities. And I have to look back, folks, and I'm not going to lie to you, it was a good life. It kept me from screwing. I told you this hand here, he wasn't very LDS. This one here was a nerd. He was definitely going on a mission. But this one here, he knew what his mission was. And it wasn't being out sleeping with boys in a third world country. But you know, when I got married to my first wife, I was a virgin. Now, that's hard to lie about. No, it's not. That's really easy to lie about, but it's the truth. I was a virgin. And I don't think I would have been if I hadn't have been a Mormon youth. They pounded on us constantly and putting electrodes on our penises to say, you don't want to use this till you're married. So anyway, it's a different church. It wasn't a corporation. I remember Howard W. Hunter coming to our ward. He was the prophet of the Mormon church. And his son, John Hunter, was a friend of mine, and he was my scout leader. And Howard W. would show up, and, you know, we'd shake his hand and be glad the prophet was there, but we didn't, you know, see the flaming angel, or the sword with the flaming angel. I think it's an angel with a flaming sword. Who knows? They could have both been on fire. Joseph was lying through his pants, liar, pants on fire, and so, you know, his flaming angel sword could have been a lie, too. So, it was a good place. And there was respect in the community. The people in the community didn't hate us like they do now. A lot of Mormons and the Mormon philosophy and cult is hated now. We were, you know, engaged, just like many wards are now, with helping in the community. We hacked down some weeds for the city, the kids. The adults stood there and go, do it faster, do it faster. It's a Jesus project. Okay, I need Jesus points. So the church now is very different, and these young people coming up in the church don't know the old church. They don't know the old history. They don't know Joseph Smith's pedophilia. They don't know Brigham Young was arrested and in jail for the Mountain Meadows massacre. The church got him out, and the papers, most of them have been destroyed, but the sheriff did arrest him for Mountain Meadows. So the young people, the New Age Mormons, don't have the length and breadth of the cult. And the cult has changed. You can drink a Coke now. Oh my God, when I was a teenager, if you drank a Coke, they'd slit your throat. And same way in the temple. When I went to the temple for years and years, the signs, tokens, and penalties were slitting your throat and cutting your gut wide open, and that you promised under the penalty of death that they could come and get you. And I looked for the Danites every damn day. They don't do that anymore. They changed. And we used to have in the temples live sessions. We used to have these 80-year-old men and 96-year-old women reading the temple ceremony, and it was funny as hell because they were so forgetful and they couldn't remember shit, and it was boring. They made the movie, and now the movie has changed 2 or 3 times to Eves that are actually running through the temple naked. I wish. If that was true, I would try to go back and get my recommend. But anyway, things have changed. Dramatically changed. And these young people, when I talk to my friend Jonathan, he says, and he means, it doesn't matter. The church is making my life better. And maybe what you're saying is true, but it was true that the Catholics were in charge of the Crusades. And there was more atrocities during the Crusades and the Templars and the Masons than ever has been in churches since. He has a point. The Catholics have basically forgotten that history. And if you're a young Catholic, you don't feel guilty about the Crusades. And if you're a young Mormon, 120 people killed down in Washington County by orders of Brigham Young, so what? It was the wild, wild west, and people got killed all the time. So I'm noticing that my time and my experience will be coming to an end. People will not look at my videos over, their lifetime. They will say, well, that's not the church. I know. That's not true. Well, it is true. But and like the Crusades were true, but they don't have pertinent value to Catholics today And a lot of the 200-year-old church of the Mormon Church, its atrocities, have also been left behind. So when young people write to me and say, well, that's not the church I'm in, there's some truth to that. There's some truth to that. My documentation hopefully will live forever, but it probably won't. The Mormons will buy YouTube. I'll be down the poop chute, and that'll be the end of it. The Mormon Church will be like the Catholic Church and like many historical organizations that had atrocious kinds of behaviors, but they're in the past. They're in the past. So I wanted to be honest that I'm seeing that, and am I pleased with it? I don't know what I'm pleased with anymore. I'm telling you the truth that I was a member for 50 years and what it did to me emotionally and psychologically. Now, has all of that stress and pressure been taken away? No. There's still a lot of people that will commit suicide, gay people and blacks and other minorities. It's a sad thing that many times in the cult, some of the main cult principles continue. Time has very little effect upon them. But I wanted to be honest and tell you that I'm certainly now in my own mind thinking I'm an old age Mormon. And there are new young Mormons. You guys that are in the middle, you'll have to decide if you're new age or old age. But I wanted to be honest and say I do see some differences in the Mormon Church and in the people. They're not as violent. They're not as crude and rude. They're not as dangerous. You know, I know the Mormon Church knows where I live. Down here in Australia, they follow the kangaroos, and when it comes right to my house, I feed them every damn morning. So the Danites know. But I haven't been harassed other than being followed once. And the things that I say on the tube that are true, that the Mormons know they're going to be in trouble for, they fix. They monitor my tube. But they haven't hassled me or my family, and they may be out of that business. I hate to underestimate them. If Mitt Romney becomes the president, the committee to strengthen the members is going to be the committee to strengthen the citizens of the United States. I don't think he's going to win. And if he does, you know, I'll move from Australia over to Ecuador. And the Danites will have to look for me for another 2 years. But I wanted to be honest that I do see some changes in the people and some changes in the religion. They used to excommunicate you if you just looked to the left or to the right. They just always excommunicated you. Well, now they don't. They try to hold some of those members in, and they used to always find ways to excommunicate people. They've come up now with this the only way you used to get excommunicated if you were an adulterer or a fornicator. Nowadays it can be behavior unbecoming. Whatever they decide that is, your ass is out. So the cruelty and the fear factor, I'm going to be honest, I think it's a little bit less. I think it's a little bit less than when I was in the church. And you couldn't resign from the Mormon Church. When I was growing up, the only way to get out was excommunication. Only way to get out. And now someone sued their ass, I think in the 80s, and the court said, no, people can resign. And the Mormons lost that power. And they generally leave us alone. They call us apostates, they call us names, and they predict we're going to hell. What did someone call me? It was cool. Someone called me a godless savage. I thought, hey, that's like Rocky, or kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in some of his movies. The savage, the godless savage. Hey, I was never called that in high school. But if I was, no one would have bothered me. So anyway, if the Mormons want to call me that, that's okay. The young, really young Mormons are still very, very defensive, and they make shit up, and that's okay. I don't care. Now I'm gonna close this program with my new name. Now this was not given to me at the Temple of the Mormons. This has been given to me by you people who have been so courteous to even watch for 2 minutes. I have a thing that shows how many minutes people have watched me. Now, the Danites might be able to beat this record. I don't know. But my thing is like, I think it's 3 years, 188 days of each minute. They've added all the minutes up, and it's like over 1 million or 2 million minutes. So if one human being sat there and watched all this crap, it would be like 3 years. And so anyway, the Danites might have been watching me much longer than that. But thank you for my new name. It is not from the temple. It is the New Caribou, the Honorable Sir David, Emperor of Salt Lake City, the Bard. Asshat. I'm going to leave the asshat off. Thanks.